Hey everyone, this is Chris Grenier with AmericaHomes, and today I'm just going to take a few moments to help answer some of the questions that we get actually on a normal basis, especially when we send properties out live that are available. There's always a few basic questions that overseas investors are going to have, and I actually have an email here from somebody who sent a couple of questions that are very common, like I said. And it's always better to hear them in person, especially in a little video that I decided to make for you. So the first question that this gentleman sent was, how are the title deeds of the property transferred to me, and are there any legal costs? Now, in America, we have title companies here which act kind of like solicitors like you do in the UK and other parts of Europe. And what they do is they procure the transaction of the deal between the buyer and the seller. Now, they are a neutral third-party company that don't work primarily for either party, but what they do is they make sure that the contract between the property and the purchase of the property is executed and it's all legally binding. And they kind of connect the dots between the buyer, the seller, and the county, which the title deed is then registered with. The legal costs that are involved are what we consider closing costs, and that's where the title company makes their money, as well as the county, such things as the recording stamp duty fees, the title transfer fees, and other things that are bundled in closing costs, such as the title insurance and our AmericaHomes transaction fee. So the legal costs that are involved in a transaction we call closing costs, and those come to about $4,000 to $4,500 per property. Now, it goes dependent, that's based on the property that is between $80,000 and $100,000. And that's on norm. I mean, dealing with properties more expensive, let's say $200,000 to $500,000, are obviously going to be a little bit more because the taxes are then based on the price of the property. So the next question is, are there any laws which make any restrictions of ownership of a property in America limited for a UK passport holder? And fortunately, there are no restrictions of foreigners owning property in America when it comes to investment purposes. So you can buy any property you wish in America, and you can even just hold it. You don't even necessarily have to use it as an investment. But what that will not do for you is kind of put you in front of the line for a visa or necessarily increase your chances for residency in America. Now, we are not any type of immigration lawyers, and that's certainly not what we do. So I would not give you any ill advice on that, and legally I can't even give you that type of advice. But we are strictly investment focused, so there are no restrictions on foreigners owning property in America, whether you're from the UK or you're from China or different parts of Europe, all of which we have clients for that own property in America. So there's no issue there. The next question he asked were, how are the outgoing payments paid? I believe he's referring to the rental payments. And then also, what is the management fee and the tax charges in America? So the first part of this question, how are the payments paid towards him through the rental income? So if you do not have a bank account already set up in America, we would certainly help you out in creating one, either with SunTrust Bank, which is a very large bank here in Florida, or Center State Bank. Again, it's another large Florida bank. You don't necessarily have to be in America to open the bank account. That's why we work with those two banks. So all you have to do is just basically email them the application, usually a copy of your passport and identification, and then that's then forwarded to the bank, in which case the bank account's then opened. It's much easier for the property management company to go ahead and deposit your rental income into that bank account rather than doing monthly wire transactions overseas, because typically international wire transfers will have a fee of anywhere from $25 to $50 each time. So I mean, that's a silly monthly expenditure. And what is the management fees? Typically, management companies will charge 10% of your rental income. Now, Rentals Orlando, who is the primary management company we work with in Orlando, they have a flat fee of $95 a month. Now, that's more of a premium management fee, but that is because, one, they specialize in overseas investors, so they kind of have a little bit more of a responsibility. And secondly, That also includes quarterly inspections on your property, which most management companies do not do, but Rentals Orlando goes above and beyond to make sure your property is doing well. And they give you monthly statements, and they make sure that everything's updated, and you know exactly the status of your property every single month, and especially with your quarterly inspections. And the tax charges in America, one of the reasons we choose Orlando for our primary investment model is the taxes here are very low. For our average property that is about $85,000, you're going to be looking at an annual tax of roughly $1,000 to $1,200 a year. Now, that's very easily paid through your rental income, and the property management company will also help you pay that too, so that still gives you a quite high net return. The next question he asked was, how is the rental monthly payments actually paid? And then finally, is it a cash or transfer to bank made outside the USA? Pretty much touched upon that in the question above. If you do not have a US bank account, we'll set one up for you, in which case your funds will be deposited there, or a monthly wire transfer that would be made to any bank account pretty much of your choice throughout the world. Not recommended, but it is certainly an option. And the last two questions he has is, what security do I have about the integrity of the tenants and their ability to pay rent? Now, the tenants here are the most important part of your investment because they're going to be the ones who give you your monthly cash flow. All the properties that we have, they certainly are in good areas. They're completely renovated, so anybody who wants to rent those properties, I'm sorry, there's actually a very high demand for anybody who wants to rent those properties because for $925 a month, all of which is our average rental, you're getting a beautiful 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home that's been completely renovated, and it's certainly to fantastic standards, especially for properties that are only $900 a month. So our property management company certainly has a rigorous qualification process for tenants. They go through a background check, they go through a credit score check, they have to have proof of employment and income, and then finally they have to have previous landlord referrals. So between those 4 categories, having a clean bill of background check, which is typically a criminal history, and having a good standing citizenship, your credit score, obviously proof that they paid their bills in the past in a respectable manner, proof of income, that they certainly have the cash flow every month to pay the rental income, and then finally your previous landlord referrals. So somebody can else say, look, these people were tenants at my property here, and they paid every single month, and they're a good standing tenant, et cetera, et cetera. Now, nobody has a crystal ball. I'm not going to lie to you and say that there's never any issues, and every single tenant who is in every property is a perfect tenant. That's not the case here. But the most you can do is use the information you have and make an informed decision based on that. We have over 200 properties here in Central Florida, and we like to really think that we can kind of weed out the cream of the crop and make sure that we put the best possible tenant in your property. We have a fantastic occupancy rate, and our length of time between tenants is less than a month on a regular basis. So if a tenant does move out, or the unfortunate circumstance where we do have to evict a tenant, we have a new tenant lined up ready to go in a very short time, so you really don't miss out on any rental income. So that pretty much sums it up for the first few questions that this gentleman had when he sent that email initially regarding one of the properties we released. So, again, touching the basis on a few basic questions, and I'm going to start doing these videos on a regular basis to help people out with simplifying the things, because it's a lot. Sometimes reading them on emails is always one thing, but hopefully not only putting a face to the name, but as well as seeing them in video and helping me explain them a little bit more will help ease the questions for you. And then if you have any more of them, you can reach us on, obviously, my email at chris@AmericaHomesUK.com. But we also now have a Facebook page along with Twitter, and on our website directly we have a Q&A section. So feel free to contact us anytime, and then when you do, I look forward to help answering your questions then.